Your primary focus should be your inner state of consciousness, your inner state of awareness. If it's not yet your primary focus, then you will still have the erratic brain wave changes, or the erratic identification with thought, and the reactivity and the anxiety and the fear. So I do thank the viewer for asking, how do we change our brain waves? Because it ultimately points to a shift in consciousness for human beings. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to hear that. Changing your brain waves is ultimately shifting, having a shift in consciousness. Shifting your state of consciousness from doing to an internal state of presence, an internal beingness that pervades our external situation. Scientists have probably proved that you can change your brain waves. There's probably many tests about that, but ultimately what they probably mean is that shift in consciousness that happens when you step out of that sense-perceived or thought-based sense of self, which connects with emotion and creates anxiety, anger, fear, and so on. So, for example, if you can notice, if you've ever been angry or in fear about something or anxious about something, when you stepped out, you probably took a breath and you probably became back aligned with the presence of who you are, with the state of consciousness which allows ease to exist within yourself. Changing your brain waves is ultimately shifting your state of consciousness from thought-based reality to a more at ease state of consciousness where you don't really need thought to be here. You can just look around, perceive through your sense perception, and allow what is to be. Now, it may be a little difficult for the first time that you try to just, because the pull is so strong of the mind, it will try to continue on and try to keep pulling energy into the thoughts that are going through your head to continue the thoughts. But when you step out of the stream of thinking and shift your attention or change your brain waves, that thought process begins to dissolve. And you're no longer in anger. It happens accidentally with most human beings. So you're in anger, something happened, you're upset, and then you notice after it takes a long time, most times, you're upset for hours or sad for hours, days, even months. But eventually it subsides. So here we're talking about changing your brain waves, ultimately shifting your state of consciousness from being pulled along by the stream of thinking to a more conscious way of being, which is you using the power of your awareness to actually step out of that when you'd like to, other than it just gradually dissolving on its own accidentally. And you say, oh, I'm not angry anymore. Or I'm at this nice surrounding area where I don't have to think. But you can do that anywhere, at work or even during the situation. Something happens and you actually can step out of that negative thinking process that's going to continue trying to pull you along. You can step out of it just with a simple conscious breath. Usually one conscious breath is good enough, where you follow the rhythm of your breathing inwardly and you follow the rhythm of your breathing out. Usually one is good. 2 or 3 is even better. Or you can scan the inner aliveness of your body with your awareness, and you can sense the inner aliveness of yourself. That's a shift in your attention too. That's a brain wave change, if you will. It doesn't really matter what surroundings you're at. It doesn't really matter what's going on, because your primary focus should be your inner state of consciousness, your inner state of awareness. If it's not yet your primary focus, then you will still have the erratic brain wave changes, or the erratic identification with thought, and the reactivity and the anxiety and the fear. So I do thank the viewer for asking, how do we change our brain waves? Because it ultimately points to a shift in consciousness for human beings. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to hear that. So very good question. I thank you. But at the same time, the thought will connect with the emotion if you allow it to. So recognizing that could happen, you should allow your primary state, your primary focus, to be that state of being in whatever you do, at the grocery store, or walking the dog, or at work. If your primary focus point is disregarded as non-existent, like it is for most people, then you'll be continuously pulled along by that strong magnetic pull that the thoughts have. And there comes worry, there comes anxiety, there comes anger when things don't go your way. So learning to step out of the stream of thinking, using the breath, it's the most ancient thing we can do. Feel the energy field of your body. Allow yourself to be. Even just for a moment, doesn't have to be long, but throughout the day, continuously shift your attention back to your primary focus point of being at ease. And this is probably what the scientists have studied, is very high frequency of brain waves, and then ultimately barely even a move in that frequency. So I would say it is possible, but it is ultimately just shifting your attention from high energy to a more stable, present state of consciousness or being. Thank you.